Spirit puts you on the floor, you're just eating clay. And they said, you were down there for hours, Robert, but God was just telling me over and over and over again, get out of what you're doing, and I'm going to give you something new.
Yeah.
And that was in 2007. I did nothing for 4 years. I stayed where I was at, which I was helping another nonprofit organization. I was his assistant. I was his handyman. And until 2010, 3 years later, I went back to that same orphanage. Now, 2007, it was very primitive. They didn't have bathrooms. They had latrines surrounded by a bamboo wall. Forget the privacy. You got to go, you got to go. But I saw so much children, barefoot, flip-flops, and we did the mission trip. We were there 21 days, but they would have services on Sunday mornings, and the worship. They didn't care if they were barefoot, torn up shorts, dirty T-shirts. When the Spirit moves, everybody's dancing, everybody's jumping. And I had my 35 millimeter camera with me. I still have that album in 2007. Went back in 2010. They already built the church. They had a nice roof. And it just confirmation for me. Time to move on.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And so I know when we think about, so in 99, Robert and I started volunteering with another nonprofit in the Southtown area long before it became gentrified and developed as it is right now. And, we literally would go door to door to meet the families and let them know what they offered because they focused on children and youth. And it was really in the process of doing that we felt very drawn to the seniors. I think some of that, I don't know, maybe some of that has to do with the fact that Robert and my mom were both older when they had us. My mom was 44 when she had me, and 45 for my mother-in-law. And they lived to their 90s. We praise God, and we got to help take care of them too. And so, but it was seeing how they really, for some of them, you could tell that they were lonely, that they didn't have a lot of social interaction. And even if, sometimes you can be even in a house full of different generations and still feel alone.
For sure.
And so we saw that so much in our seniors. So when Robert had the opportunity to go on these trips, it really was just a lot of confirmation. The reality is that Robert is a very systematic person, but I remember when he started, volunteering, even after work, he would volunteer with the nonprofit, and he would just say, I could do this. But Robert's not the kind to take a step of faith on his own. And so in 2003, before the calling ever came, Robert fell down at home, cutting limbs, and broke his back.
Oh, gosh.
Yes. And so that was a life-changing experience for us, definitely a life event. And so Robert had worked for many years for Central Freight Lines as a dockman. Well, he ended up being disabled for about a year and a half, and they could only hold his job for a year. So he lost his job of 24, almost 24 years.
Yeah, they gave me a retirement plaque of 23 years for your service, and have a good day.
Yeah.
And that was it. And I cleaned out my little locker and walked away from there.
Yeah.
And I haven't looked back since.
Yeah.
But
that's kind of when it started, After that, we had to say, okay, Lord, what do you have next, right? And so he started serving with his, finding his own support and all. And so then when this happened with, just his calling and knowing that, okay, this is what the Lord has called us to do, we did. It required a step of faith.
Did you feel when you were in 2007, when you felt God was speaking to you, was he telling you to start your own nonprofit, to do your own thing? Is that what you were kind of hearing?
Correct.
That it was time for you to go off and
he was going to give him something new.
Yeah.
Well, at first, I started serving the poor on Halloween Halloween morning of 1999. Funny thing about Halloween, I met my wife on Halloween in 1979.
Really? Okay.
And our joke is that
1 year later.
I got the trick and he got the treat.
Yeah.
That's cool. That's good.
But we were going around the South Side through another organization. And after we finished, I said, oh, my God, I'm gonna go into a rough neighborhood. Well, I better go with my wife because she started volunteering at that organization. I better go with her, start knocking on doors, and somebody may just grab her, take her inside. I said, I better go. And then after we did that, on Halloween of 1999, it was in the Southtown area on the South Side. Mm-hmm. And I said to myself, I can do this. And something happened. I guess God heard me. I guess he
like, didn't forget. It's about time.
He's like, this is someone I can use.
And I guess 4 years later, I fell off my back, and I fell off that tree in my backyard. And I ignored him. I denied him for 4 years. And I said, no, I don't want to leave my 45 a year job. I was making some money. And I guess when I fell from 12, 15 feet with my chainsaw still running, 3 feet from me, it was still turning. Mm-hmm. It's like God looked down and said, okay, forget about your job. Now I have something for you. You going to listen to me now?